Hello again guys, and welcome back to another Big Al Devlin video here at the House of Devlin. And this video is all about the greatest pain that I've ever experienced in my entire life. Or should I say my death. 2 years ago I died during a car crash and came back to life. My heart stopped and I was dead for probably 20-30 minutes and came back to life without external aid, i.e. defibrillation or anything like this. Nothing. I just came back through sheer willpower and through the help of Freya. During my death, I had an experience of going to what would be a pagan heaven called Folkvangir, which is a heaven ruled over by Freya. That's why I say with Freya's help, because I don't think Freya would have let go of me unless she saw that the love that was my motivation for returning back to this earth was pure and strong and completely innocent in its origins. It is just pure love, and that's the only reason I wanted to return to this world, to protect that love that I had for the woman that was in pain at the time, who was the passenger in the car with me. I was in a car crash. That's how I died. Okay, and my passenger was in a great deal of pain because she survived because of my actions. But what I want to do is I want to try and describe the worst pain that I've ever experienced to you. But I can't do it through words, because the pain that I experienced was not the pain that I had in my body. In my body, when I came back from Folkvangir, and I was fully within my body felt like it wanted to throw up from every square inch, from the top of my head to the bottom of my toes. It was in so much pain. It was convulsing. It felt like it wanted to convulse and throw up and be sick. My whole body was sickened with pain. That's how intense the pain was in my body at that point in time, and I won't ever forget it. And I had meningitis as a kid, and I thought that was painful, but this was 100 times more painful. This was excruciating. But I can tell you what, it was 100 times more painful getting back to Midgard. Okay, and so I've got an experiment for you which will involve you and hopefully make this video a bit more exciting for you, and perhaps give you a more insight into how it felt. It's hard to describe. Okay, so I was in Folkvangir. I was in the Meadow of the Dead. I felt peace and tranquility, and then all of a sudden my heart was broken because I could hear the screams of my loved one. And that heartbreak gave me this overwhelming desire to return to Midgard, no matter what the cost, no matter what pain would be inflicted upon me, no matter what torment or deeds that I had to do. I was going to do them to get back to her, to get back into that car and to suffer then the physical pain that my body was going through. My body was ready to die, but I stopped it from dying, okay, through sheer willpower. And the experience of travelling from Folkvangir to Midgard, that was the most painful experience, far more painful than the pain that I felt in my body after the car crash, far more painful than the meningitis that I had as a child, far more painful than any punch I've ever had in a fight, in the ring, anything, far more painful than anything I could ever imagine. And the only way I can explain it is to do the following with you. Now, some of you might be very good deep sea divers, in which case it's not going to be very good with you. But I want you to take, all of a sudden, a deep breath and then hold it. So with me, 1, 2, 3. Now that was a minute. Okay, now I'm well capable of going towards 2 minutes. Now, some of you may not have experienced too much there, but as you take that deep breath in, and as you're getting towards the minute point, all of a sudden you start feeling a little bit of tingling in your legs, a little bit of pain maybe in your stomach, things like this. Or if you continued it, if you want to do it again in your own time, I can't do a video where I'm just holding my breath for like 2, 3, 4 minutes or something like this, right? That'd be a bit boring, okay? But in your own time, if you want to do that to the point where you literally feel like your eyes are going to explode, that gives you an indication of how it feels like trying to travel across Gununganap, because well, that's what I see it as. Between Folkvangir and Midgard, I see it being as Gununganap, the gap between the realms, essentially the gap that existed before creation occurred. It may be a veil, it may be some kind of different kind of thing. I'm just calling it Gununganap because it's the only name that I can give to it, the only real name that I can explain it as. It may have been something else, but my experience was swimming through pure darkness. And what is Gununganap? Where not even darkness exists, not even where silence exists. And when I was in this point of travelling towards what looked like, well, basically what my eyes would have been seeing at the time, I could see what my eyes would be seeing, but it was like 1,000 miles away. So it was like, how can, you can't make any details, and you've got to swim that distance, 1,000 miles, swim 1,000 miles. You try it, it's hard. You're not going to do it, okay? And it felt like I was swimming through this darkness, and that there was no current or anything like this, but every time I got further and further from Folkvangir and closer to Midgard, every stroke seemed to get harder. One, because my body tired, and I say, but also because my body felt like it was being starved of oxygen in many ways. It was being starved of what it needed. My soul had to be somewhere. It had to be either in my body or in the afterlife in Folkvangir. It should not have been in this in-between part, the veil, so to speak, or Gununganap, or whatever it might be. I don't know, I don't care what it is, but that little bit of distance between the godly realms and our own realms, okay? That distance, no matter how small or big it is, I don't know, takes, for what it seems to be, an eternity to cross. That experience of swimming through the darkness seemed to last an eternity for me. I can't remember its beginning, and I can't remember its end. All I remember is waking up in my body and forgetting about it immediately, until obviously with further counselling and talking about it and thinking about it, the memories came back to me. But initially, obviously, I was heavily concussed. I didn't barely even know my own name at that point. I didn't even know where I lived. I knew what city I lived in, but I didn't know where my home was. So I was in a bad shape when I first came round. So to ask me, oh, have you just come back from the afterworld? I would not have been able to answer that question for you. It would be a bit complicated for me. I could only understand basic English at this point. Basic commands, and I could only follow them out in clumsy, haphazard manners and ways. But the pain that I felt was that like when you're holding your breath, it feels, when you get to the extreme points, that your life is leaving you. Because it is. You're dying, you're suffocating. Well, it feels like that in Gununganap, but 100, if not 1,000 times worse. And every stroke, as I say, that you take back towards Midgard, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse. With every stroke, it gets more painful. And I suppose the reason as such is to make sure that you are definitely capable. You're not supposed to return back from the dead. There's a reason why there's not many people who have lived, died, and come back to life by themselves. There's not many of us. And there's good reason for it. I'm telling you, there's good reason for it, because it's a painful experience to go through. And I don't think most people have that willpower to be able to get through it. The only reason I had the willpower to get through it is because I was so focused on my love for the woman in the car in the car with me, and I wanted to be there with her. I didn't want her to suffer in pain alone. Why should she suffer alone? I should be there for her. That was my job. I'm a boyfriend. I'm a lover. I'm meant to be there when it's at hardest times as well as the happiest times. I'm there to support her in health and in sickness, so to speak, if you know what I mean, So I didn't know what I was going back to. And it's been a hard 2 years since. I mean, she's in a wheelchair and everything. And not once have I ever doubted my decision to come back. Because I'm here. And if I'm here for all eternity with my love, then so be it. I will be here until Freya deems that my role here on Earth, on Midgard, is over. Okay? Freya will have only let me come because of to achieve something, whether that's simply just the most basic of things, the protection of my loved one. And when she dies, I'll die immediately right next to her. I don't know if that will happen. That's what I suspect. When she dies, I will die. But perhaps Freya has a bigger plan for me. Not just allowing me to protect my loved ones, perhaps she wishes me to protect others as well. Or achieve some kind of knowledge or some success, I'm not sure. And this is my journey as someone who's gone through what's called the waking dream. I am a shaman or a druid, whatever you wish to call me, amongst a paganistic society. And as a shaman, it is my role to discover why the gods have allowed me to come back to this realm. Why the gods, why am I here? If it was truly out of sheer willpower, and I broke my own fate, because remember, as a pagan, we're ruled by fate. Okay, I was fated to die that day, and I said, "Fuck you, fate! I'm staying alive." That's what I did. Okay, and that's what people who go through a waking dream do. They give the big fuck you to fate, and they say, we're not letting you take us. Okay, we're staying. And that's what happens. I gave a big fuck you to fate. And now I'm what would you describe as a fateless man. I make my own fate. I'm no longer controlled by fate, because my fate ended with my death. The Norns have inscribed my life, my birth, and my life to its death, and they obviously, didn't expect me to come back after my death, because you're not supposed to most of the time. There's very, very few of us. But as I say, the most painful experience to me in my entire life was coming back from Folkvangr to Midgard. Not because I wanted to stay in Folkvangr, nothing along those lines. There was no motivation to stay. Once I had my heart broken by those screams of my girlfriend, the peace and tranquility left that area. I was overwhelmed by my desire to be with my loved one. And that's what drew me back. And when I came back, as I say, the first thing I just remember was being so out of it that all I was doing was, I had glass in my mouth. I was just chewing on the glass. I was just chewing on glass because it's all I could do at that point in time. My body was reawakening. And then after that, eventually I started to become more aware of what was going on. I saw my girlfriend's leg, and I got out of the car with the help of a civilian. But other than that, as I say, that's my description and my way of trying to explain to you what the most painful experience in my life has been. Thank you.